A federal judge has taken action no judge in American history has ever taken. While an active federal trial is still underway, Judge Ma formally transmitted impeachment evidence directly to the United States Congress. This occurred less than 24 hours after Trump's entire legal team was physically removed from the courtroom by federal marshals. Court officials confirm the referral cites impeachable conduct tied to the case currently before the court. Tonight, Washington is locked down. The National Guard is deployed. Republican members of Congress are defecting in real time. And the President of the United States is posting threats of civil war on social media. This is where we are. Yesterday, after Judge Ma ejected Trump's lawyers from the courtroom for perjury, after federal marshals physically escorted them out in front of cameras, he did not simply resume the trial. He escalated. He issued a formal judicial order, and the language in that order is explosive. Judge Ma wrote that obstruction of justice and perjury constitute impeachable high crimes and misdemeanors, and that congressional transmission is now complete. That phrase carries weight. It means the judge formally packaged evidence and sent it to the House of Representatives for impeachment proceedings. He did not send a summary. He sent everything. He transmitted full courtroom transcripts documenting Trump's lawyers lying 17 separate times about emails they claimed did not exist. He included the $40 million Saudi payment email that proved those statements were false. He included body camera footage of the lawyers being escorted out by marshals. And then he included the most damaging material of all, the Jack Smith recording in which Trump is heard telling associates to ignore court orders, the Letitia James recording in which Trump is heard threatening judges. All of it sealed, cataloged, and delivered to the House Judiciary Committee. This is unprecedented. A federal judge has never done this before. Not during Watergate, not during Nixon, not during Clinton, never. The House was ready. Heightened Re 353 has been sitting dormant since April 2025. That resolution contains 7 articles of impeachment, bribery related to emoluments, violations, tyranny connected to military deployment, plots, abuse of power, obstruction of justice, contempt of Congress, violation of the oath of office, and incitement. Until yesterday, that resolution had roughly 120 co-sponsors, mostly Democrats with a small number of Republicans. Not enough to pass. Everything changed when Trump's lawyers were ejected. Everything changed when Judge Ma sent his referral. As of this morning, the resolution has 220 co-sponsors, a majority of the House of Representatives, enough to impeach right now. The names being added are shocking. Thomas Massie, Tom Tillis, Republicans who publicly defended Trump last week have flipped. Massie held a press conference this morning and said, "Resign or removal. He is unfit to command." That is a Republican saying that about a Republican president. Representatives Roanna and Al Green have invoked the 72-hour rule, a procedural mechanism that forces a floor vote within 3 days. They filed the motion this morning. By January 11th, at the latest, the House of Representatives will vote on whether to impeach Donald Trump. 3 days. That is all the time he has left. With 220 co-sponsors already on record, the math is brutal. Trump is getting impeached. The only remaining question is how many Republicans join Democrats on the final vote. That number is growing by the hour. Republicans waiting to see which way the wind blows are jumping ship. They see the recordings. They see the transcripts. They see a lawyers dragged out of court for perjury. They know they cannot go on television and defend this anymore. Trump's response has been exactly what anyone paying attention would expect. He has been posting nonstop on Truth Social since the referral landed all-caps rants about hoaxes, attacks on Judge Ma, claims of conspiracies, and then came the post that alarmed everyone. A threat of civil war if Congress removes him. A sitting president threatening civil war if Congress exercises its constitutional authority is not rhetoric. It is incitement, and every post he makes becomes evidence. Every rant strengthens the case against him. He cannot stop himself. He is self-destructing in real time. Washington is locked down. National Guard units are deployed. Barricades are going up. Protesters on both sides are gathering. Pro-Trump groups are screaming about stolen elections. Anti-Trump demonstrators are demanding immediate removal. Law enforcement is everywhere. This is day one. There are 3 days until the House vote. 3 more days of chaos. 3 more days for evidence to surface. 3 more days for Republican defections. Everything that has been tracked for months, the recordings, the documents, the court rulings, the resignations, has converged into this moment. Impeachment is coming. There is nothing Trump can do to stop it. The House vote will happen by January 11th, 3 days from now. The 72-hour rule has already been triggered. That rule exists for moments exactly like this when leadership believes delay itself becomes dangerous. With 220 co-sponsors already on record, impeachment is not a question of if. It is a question of margin. Will it be narrow, something like 218 to 217, or will it become a blowout if more Republicans defect at the last minute? Either way, Donald Trump is about to become the first president in American history to be impeached 3 times. This time, the charges are not procedural or symbolic. They are substantive. Bribery, obstruction of justice, abuse of power, incitement. These are not arguments over policy or executive discretion. These are allegations that strike directly at the constitutional order. That distinction matters because it alters how both the public and the Senate will view what comes next. Once the House impeaches, the process moves to the Senate. A trial becomes mandatory. The Chief Justice will preside. House managers will present Judge Ma's evidence in full. The transcripts, the recordings, the financial documents, the body camera footage. Trump's legal team, whoever is willing to represent him after yesterday, will attempt a defense. And then senators will vote. Conviction requires 67 votes. Every Democrat plus 18 Republicans. That sounds like a high bar. Look at what is already happening. Republicans who were firmly in Trump's camp are defecting. Senators in swing states are watching the footage and imagining attack ads. Party leadership is furious about the courtroom humiliation. No one wants to be on record defending perjury, obstruction, and threats against judges. Even if Trump survives the Senate numerically, politically he will be crippled. An impeached president facing overwhelming evidence is a president without leverage. Trump himself is the most dangerous element in this equation. His reaction so far has been erratic, hostile, and dangerous. Threats of civil war are not offhand comment. They are red flags. Law enforcement is treating them seriously. That is why the National Guard is mobilized. That is why intelligence agencies are monitoring extremist chatter. Authorities are preparing for the possibility of violence. History has taught them not to dismiss Trump's rhetoric as empty. The next 72 hours are the most dangerous window. Trump knows impeachment is inevitable. He knows control is slipping away. When Trump feels cornered, he escalates. He lashes out. He burns bridges. He invites chaos. That pattern is well documented. Officials in Washington are not sleeping tonight. Judge Ma's referral does not stop with Congress. Evidence of perjury, obstruction, and witness intimidation has also been sent to prosecutors. If investigators can establish that Trump directed his lawyers to lie under oath, that is suborning perjury, a serious federal crime. Obstruction of justice carries prison exposure. Witness intimidation does as well. Multiple grand juries are already active in Washington, New York, and Georgia. Criminal indictments could arrive while impeachment proceedings are still underway. This is territory the Constitution anticipated but hoped would never be needed. Multiple accountability mechanisms moving at once. Congressional impeachment, criminal prosecution, judicial intervention, and hovering over all of it is a conversation no one wanted to have but now cannot avoid. The 25th Amendment reports indicate quiet discussions between the Vice President and cabinet members about capacity and stability. The 25th Amendment allows removal without a House vote or Senate trial if a president is deemed unable to discharge the duties of office. It can happen quickly overnight. Trump could contest it. Congress would decide with impeachment already moving forward. The outcome would not be in doubt. The fact that this option is being discussed tells you how severe the situation has become. The Republican Party is tearing itself apart in real time. Loyalists are doubling down. Pragmatists are fleeing. Internal threats are being made. Lawmakers who defected are receiving harassment. The party is collapsing under the weight of Trump's implosion. With midterms looming, many Republicans see electoral disaster ahead. If they remain tied to this chaos internationally, allies are alarmed. A U.S. president threatening civil war while facing impeachment and criminal exposure is not a normal headline. Adversaries are watching closely, calculating risk, probing weakness. Domestic instability always has global consequences. Right now, America looks unstable. 3 days from a House impeachment vote, a federal judge has formally declared impeachable offenses. A majority of the House has already signed on. The National Guard is deployed. Criminal investigations are accelerating. The 25th Amendment is being discussed. The Republican Party is splintering. The president is escalating rhetoric that only worsens his legal exposure. This is not noise. This is not hype. This is convergence. Everything that has been building for months is colliding into one narrow window of time. What happens in the next 72 hours will shape the future of the presidency, the rule of law, and American democracy itself. Beyond the immediate mechanics of impeachment and indictment, a deeper reckoning is taking shape, one that cannot be delayed or dismissed once this process begins. What Judge Ma did shattered a long-standing assumption in American politics that courts stay in their lane and Congress cleans up its own messes. That wall is gone. The judiciary has stepped directly into the constitutional machinery and said this conduct is so severe that the legislative branch must act immediately. That changes the balance of power in a way never seen before. For decades, presidents relied on delay as a survival strategy. Drag things out, litigate endlessly. Let public attention fade. Let elections intervene. Delay is no longer available to Trump. The referral collapsed timelines. It forced Congress to move on a judicial clock, not a political one. Once that clock starts, it does not stop because of rallies, polls, or threats. This is why Trump's allies are panicking behind the scenes, even if they are loud in public. They understand that impeachment is no longer the end of the story. It is the beginning of exposure. Senate trials bring witnesses, subpoenas, oath, cross-examination, evidence that has not yet seen daylight. Every layer peeled back creates new legal risk, not just for Trump, but for anyone who enabled him. That is where the fear really spreads. Staffers, donors, political operatives, lawyers, advisors, people who thought loyalty would protect them are suddenly realizing loyalty only ties them closer to the blast radius. Preparation becomes the rational move. Silence becomes dangerous. Once that shift begins, it accelerates. Trump senses this. That is why his rhetoric has turned openly apocalyptic. He is not posting to persuade undecided voters anymore. He is posting to intimidate institutions. Civil war language is not political messaging. It is a threat designed to make Congress hesitate, to make judges second guess us, to make officials fear consequences for doing their jobs. That tactic has backfired spectacularly. Threats do not freeze institutions when they are documented. They harden them. Every post is archived, time-stamped, and potentially admissible. Every escalation strengthens the argument that Trump is not just unfit, but dangerous. This is why security posture in Washington looks the way it does right now. Officials are preparing not just for protests, but for the possibility that Trump's words trigger real-world violence. The memory of January 6th is not theoretical. It is operational. Agencies know exactly what happens when rhetoric turns into action. They are determined not to be caught unprepared again. The political narrative is collapsing around Trump. He can no longer credibly claim persecution when a federal judge bound by evidence and procedure initiates the impeachment referral. This was not a cable news panel. This was not an opposition press release. This was a courtroom under oath with record. That distinction matters enormously to voters who may be exhausted by chaos but still care about legitimacy. Here is the quiet truth. Many in Washington will not say out loud yet. Even if Trump somehow survives the Senate trial, his presidency does not recover from this. Authority once broken does not reassemble. Every executive action would be challenged. Every order questioned, every decision viewed through the lens of instability. Governance becomes nearly impossible. That is why contingency planning is happening everywhere in Congress. In federal agencies, among allies overseas, people are preparing for outcomes ranging from resignation to removal to incapacitation. This is what constitutional crisis management looks like when the guardrails are under stress. When people ask whether this is really the end, the answer is more precise than yes or no. It is the end of the illusion. The illusion of untouchability. The illusion that power alone can override law. The illusion that consequences can always be outrun. What remains now is process. Cold, methodical, relentless process is the one thing Trump has never been able to dominate. The countdown is real. The record is locked. The next move belongs not to Trump, but to the Constitution. What happens in the next 72 hours will not just determine Trump's fate. It will determine whether constitutional authority still has gravity in the United States. Once impeachment moves from theory to action, everything changes. The stakes harden. The language sharpens. The consequences become unavoidable. By the time the House gavels in for the impeachment vote, there will be no room left for ambiguity. Members will not be voting on personality or politics or loyalty. They will be voting on a documented record assembled by a federal judge, reinforced by sworn testimony, recordings, and physical evidence. That matters because it strips away the usual defenses. There is no plausible deniability left. No didn't know. No taken out of context. The paper trail is complete. That is why the atmosphere inside Congress right now feels less like debate and more like preparation. Offices are coordinating security. Leadership teams are planning for multiple outcomes. Legal counsel is on standby. Everyone understands this is not merely another decision. It remains a constitutional breaking moment. Trump comprehends it also. Even though he may not acknowledge it, his conduct mirrors a man who realizes time is no longer his partner. That explains why the language has intensified from grievance toward menace. That explains why he is no longer attempting to persuade undecided legislators, but instead attempting to coerce institutions directly. He is wagering that fear will delay the process, that turmoil will cause Congress to pause, that chaos will purchase him time. But fear does not operate the same manner when it is documented. When threats are captured, archived, and presented as evidence, they lose their capacity to intimidate and gain capacity to convict. Every message Trump publishes now is not a defense. It becomes an exhibit. The discussion surrounding the 25th Amendment has not disappeared. It exists as a pressure release mechanism for moments exactly like this. When a president's actions raise significant concerns about stability and capacity, it is faster than impeachment, more immediate. Its mere inclusion in the discussion tells you how seriously officials are regarding Trump's behavior. The criminal dimension of this continues advancing regardless of what Congress does. Judges do not halt investigations because of political timetables. Prosecutors do not stop examining evidence because a president is furious. Impeachment accelerates criminal exposure by bringing additional evidence into the open under oath. That convergence is what renders this moment so perilous and so decisive. Trump is not confronting one threat. He is confronting several, all advancing simultaneously. Congressional removal, criminal indictment, political abandonment, institutional isolation. None of those processes rely on his consent. The Republican Party understands it. The fractures unfolding now are not temporary. They are structural. Once members start defecting publicly, the dam does not reseal. It shatters. Every new defection makes the next one simpler. Every silence speaks louder than a defense. This explains why the next 3 days will feel relentless. More evidence, more statements, more resignations, more pressure, more panic from a president who has never been compelled to confront a system that will not bend. Trump constructed his entire political identity on the notion that rules are optional, that institutions are fragile, that consequences can always be escaped. What is occurring now is the collapse of that belief, not rhetorically, procedurally. When the House ultimately votes, it will not feel like a dramatic climax. It will feel inevitable, like the final step in a sequence that has already been determined by evidence, by process, and by time. The question is no longer whether impeachment occurs. The question is what survives after.